गुड इवनिंग स्टूडेंट्स। आई होप आप सभी ने जो हमने लास्ट सेशन में डिस्कस किया है पढ़ा है. You would have definitely gone through that. So in first 5-7 minutes I'll request you all to post your questions on whatever we studied in the previous session, so that it also makes me aware that you all are studying, also your doubts are cleared, and also it becomes a starting point for our next session. So anybody has any questions, whether basic, whether advanced, whether simple, whether difficult, makes no difference. Don't have any judgment about it. Just raise your hand so that I can unmute you. We can have a one-to-one conversation so that your doubts can get cleared and we can proceed further. Yes, students, tell me, anybody has any doubts about the basics of customs we studied in the previous lecture, the procedures, certain concepts? Anybody wants to share something, ask something? No? All are thoroughly clear? Okay. So then let me take ahead. Sir, on BOS portal, the book is the old one, not from which you are teaching to us. No worries, Ginny Beta. The new modules, as they are being revised, they will be put on this portal. So you will be getting it chapter wise, because we are also in the process of revising it. As you know, indirect taxes are the most regular changing topic. And for our May exams, the portion applicable is up to October. So it is very important that we all give you all the most updated material. So we are continuously revising. That is why we have kept it on hold till date, so that whatever maximum we can add, we will add it. So as and when we proceed with our chapters, it will be uploaded on the portal. Fine, beta. Anybody else has any doubts or questions? No? Okay. So then let me take you to our today's session. Today we are going to discuss two aspects. For the second aspect, which is a technical one, I have made a detailed PPT. For the first one, I will make and share it, but I found our module very excellent. So that is why I wish to take it in detail instead of going by the PPT. So we'll go by the module only, so that what happens if I take the thorough module in the class, you don't have to separately go and visit the module again. That is the main objective. So let me start. So the two topics that we are going to discuss today, first one is a very not so detailed, a smaller one. We can cover it up fast and give more time to the second one. So first one is types of duties, and the second one is classification. I'll not speak about classification now. That we'll deal with when we go to the topic. Now, in the previous lecture, we made a start. The start was that we understood that in case of customs, the taxable event is import into or export out of India, which means physical movement of goods. Let me first clear the question. So Jean is again asking, then sir, for reading chapter 1, we have to refer the old one till now. Yes, till the time this new one is updated on your portal, you may refer the old one, but not a problem, right? Jeannie, I hope I've answered you. Vignesh, sir, when can we access customs law and customs tariff act? Where? For knowledge purpose. See, Vignesh, a very relevant question. The first thing is simply Google Customs Act. See, I'll show you. Many times I do that because you need not go to any specific portal. It is simply Customs Act. See, already you got this 1962. And remember this website. Normally, I find this website as more authentic for downloading any acts. So, Indian code. Even you have links from our institute's portal also. So see, from here, you can go to the Customs Act, the Bear Act. I presume you're talking about the Bear Act. So you have it here, section wise, right? So you can very well refer it from here. And I appreciate that you all are keen on referring to the Bear laws also. Fine? Yes. CBIC portal is also good, but I think you can try it from the India Code portal, which I at least find more relevant, and it helps me get it faster. Yes, CBSE portal is also good. Yes, Vignesh, fine. So students, let us then first now take up to the topic, and then maybe we can have more queries and answering to that. Now, in the first chapter, we studied that the levy is decided by importation or exportation, which is the physical movement in or out of India of your goods. Now, we are yet to study the intricacies. Like I explained you the procedure so that you could connect with all the other material that we discussed in that lecture, but the detailed procedures are yet to come. So one, procedures are left. Two, valuation, which is a very important chapter from exam point of view also is left. Three, the topic which we are discussing today. What is the topic? Now let us say once there is a levy. Now again, remember students, we are mainly talking from the perspective of import, because we already studied in the previous lecture, exports majorly are not attracting duties in much of the cases, except in some specific cases where the government wants to tax export. And that also is when their interest is to restrict or prohibit export for a particular period of time or to a particular country. Other than that, exports generally are not leviable to tax, obviously. Now, so whenever we are talking anything, please remember what we are referring to is mainly the import side of customs. Now, when we are talking about this chapter, what is this chapter basically dealing with? Now, you have established the levy. Now, you know that levy has happened. We will see how to find out value later. We will see the procedures, assessment, revision, everything. For the time being, I am most interested in, if there is a levy, what is the type of duty or duties, and what are the different duties and taxes that I need to pay at the time of import. Now, why this question is relevant? Let us link it with other taxation laws like income tax. In income tax, you have the income tax, let me call it as the basic tax. Then you have the surcharge, and then you have the education cess, secondary and higher education cess. Health and education cess, secondary and higher education cess, whatever you can call it. Similarly, when you come to the GST law, we have the main GST, which may be C plus S or it may be I. Plus, in some cases, you also have the compensation cess. So from this, what we can understand is that in any taxation law, there could be multiple types of taxes, duties, which are levied on that particular event or that particular transaction. The same thing is customs. But there is something even more interesting about customs is that customs is more like a single window system. Now, what is a single window system? Nowadays, you find this concept in majority government departments. You find this in banks. What it means that earlier we were required to go to different windows for different purposes. Now, all these organizations, government and banks and all these, they have said that, okay, you need not go to different windows for everything. You come to one window, that window will do everything. So that window will also give you application form. It will also accept your application form. In case of bank, that will also give you the printout of your passbook. It will also accept your checks, etc., everything, except for the cash, which will be done by the cashier. So similarly, customs also plays the role of the single window system when it comes to tax, specifically or only indirect tax, because anyways, customs is dealing with indirect. Now, 2-3 questions relating to this. What is single window system in customs and why there is single window system? So when we say what is single window system, as you can see on the screen, we are not only collecting customs, we are also collecting GST, which obviously in case of customs will be IGST because it is import, so it becomes interstate supply. We are also collecting the compensation cess of GST. Besides this, we have safeguard measures whereby, if you remember my previous lecture, I had mentioned that the customs law is not only for revenue for the government, it is also for control. So through customs, the government also wants to exercise control. Here I am talking about the economic control. What is economic control? I want to restrict certain goods entering my country, or I want to give protection to the domestic industry, domestic market, domestic businesses of my country when they face competition with some international players. Now, all this is called as safeguard measure. And how that is done? That is done by levying some extra duties alongside your custom duty, which are the countervailing duty, anti-dumping duty, etc. And then again, we have like how you have education, health cess in case of income tax. In similar manner, in customs, we have something called as social welfare surcharge, and we also have something called as agriculture infrastructure development cess. Now you can see from the screen itself that customs law at one single point is collecting so many taxes. So this is what a single window system of customs. So I've answered the first question, what? Now I come to the second question, why? Why is customs doing this? Answer is very simple. First part, since the goods are entering India and customs is the first authority which is having control, which is having check, or rather it has the power to retain your goods till you don't pay the duty. So it is very easy for government to ask customs to collect all possible duties that are applicable. So that is why the first reason why customs is single window. Second reason is also to bring parity. Parity between what? Parity between a foreign goods which are coming to India and the domestically produced goods. Now, when a domestically produced goods is facing so many taxes, it is paying like in case of earlier era, it was paying excise, then it was paying octroi, then it was paying VAT. In the similar fashion, the present era, it is also paying GST, whatever it is, C plus S or I, and in some cases, it is also paying compensation cess. Now, if a foreign made good is coming to India and only because Indian goods are levied with so many taxes, which for the time being foreign good is not, then it will create an imparity whereby our Indian goods may appear costlier to the customers, and automatically because of our own taxes, foreign goods will have major demand in India, and automatically, I'm sure you'll understand, it will adversely impact our economy. So to protect our industries, the government felt it appropriate to levy those taxes to bring it at par with our Indian taxes. So then both can compete at the same level playing field. Plus, as you saw, there are some safeguard measures where we feel that it is necessary to provide some additional protection to our domestic businesses, domestic industries. We are also using customs as that single window to even add further more taxes so that our industries get production. Now, somebody will ask, sir, how our industries will get production? See, when you are levying or adding some additional taxes on some foreign goods, automatically the value or the price of those goods will go high or will go up. And then our obviously goods will have preference because maybe our goods may appear less costlier, they may appear cheaper, or at least they may become competitive with those foreign goods. So this is how why is answered. Why customs is a single window system. Now let us go to each of these duties in detail. Now, if you remember the previous lecture, I had mentioned that all these duties are given in the Customs Tariff Act. So now majorly what we are going to discuss is the Customs Tariff Act. Ayush is asking, so sir, can we call? So we can call customs as one of the trade barriers. Ayush, why you are calling it as a barrier? See, if somebody is levying tax on you or collecting tax from you, it does not makes it a barrier. No? That is why I said it is a single window system, whereby whatever taxes the government wants to levy, either for revenue purpose or for safeguarding purpose or for restriction, prohibition purpose, all can be conveniently done. As I said, the first reason I gave was it is convenient because the goods are, whatever goods are coming from outside India are under the complete control and disposal of the customs. So for a government, it is easier to exercise all possible controls at customs. See, once they come inside your domestic territory and they get dispersed, then it is very difficult to have control. But at that point, it is easy. So I will not say customs. In fact, I highly reject this sentence when you say that customs is a trade barrier. Because had it been so, then many countries would have stopped collecting customs, because then now every country wants to improve their trade. In fact, today, the biggest thing that is driving different countries or bringing friendship and bringing good cordial relations between countries is trade. So no country will today afford losing trade. So I don't think this is right to say that customs is a barrier for trade. Fine. Okay. Now let us go to all these duties and taxes in detail one by one. So first is we go to the main customs duty, which is levied for importing the goods, which is given by way of Section 2 of the Customs Tariff Act. So Section 2 of the Customs Tariff Act is dealing with the basic custom duty, and then further sections 3, 7, 8, 9, 9A, etc. are dealing with the all other duties that we just saw. Now, this is also read with Section 12 of the Customs Act, because if you remember, the charging section we discussed in the last lecture was Section 12 of the Customs Act. So obviously first there will be charging section and then there will be duty. So always whenever we are referring to duty, though we are referring to different sections of the Customs Tariff Act, you should always give a reference as read with Section 12 of the Customs Act. Now, so we already know what does Section 12 of Customs Act said. It said that we shall levy duty on import or export, and then it says at what rates? At the rates which may be specified in the Customs Tariff Act or in any other law for the timing in force. So rates you'll find in Customs Tariff Act also, and also in some other laws. So let us, with this background or backdrop, let us go to the details of different types of customs duty. So the first duty is the main or the basic duty of customs. People call it as the import duty and the export duty. So it is the main duty of customs which is levied for importing the goods or exporting the goods. Now, where is this duty rates given? If you remember, I had mentioned this also in the last lecture. They are given Schedule 1 and Schedule 2. Schedule 1 gives you the rate for import. Schedule 2 gives you the rate for export. Now here, we all have heard in economics, read in economics, WTO, World Trade Organization. Now, India being a member of WTO, it is important, it is imperative, it is compulsory for us or all WTO nations to adopt the HSN in their tariff. Now, I'm sure since you all have studied inters and come here, you all would be knowing HSN, but still let me explain, because our second topic is exclusively dealing with, which is classification. So HSN is basically a standardized list of names. So maybe we call something as a cake, but you will find that somebody else may call it as a pastry. Somewhere else it may be called as a particular type of a cookie. Now the question is, if in different countries in the same English language, if the same product is known by different words, different names, it will be difficult to have a inter-country trade, because every country will be representing the product by a different name. So how will trade happen? Because people may be confused as to what is cookie and what is cake and what is pastry. That is why WTO made a standardized list of names saying that henceforth, whenever you are having international trade, you will use these names for your goods. So maybe what you may very casually call as a toffee, it may be termed as a cocoa product. What you may very casually call as a cake, that name may not be found in entire list of HSN. It may be represented by pastries or bakery products, and in that further sub-classifications, what are those that we are going to see in the next part of today's session. So HSN is basically a list of names. Now these names are in lakhs, because we have so many goods today being imported, exported across different countries. So these names are then categorized or divided into chapters. So that is how we have different chapters of the HSN. And to identify that particular product, a HSN code is given. Now this is important to note. You all would have studied, I'm sure, at your inter level that the HSN code is 8-digit, correct? And that is right. But see what I've already marked here. It is at 6 digits. I'm talking about this HSN, which is made by the WCO. WCO is World Customs Organization, which is part of the WTO. But as far as our domestic transaction is concerned, for our domestic transaction, we have taken or we have added 2 digits extra. So that is why in GST, when you study HSN, you will find that they are referring to 8-digit HSN. So first 6 digits are same. additional last two digits are added by us for our further classification. Fine. Now, interestingly, when we go to the first schedule of the Customs Tariff Act, which deals with the rates of duty, there are total 5 columns in this. What are these 5 columns dealing with? The first column gives you the HSN, that is a code number. So first column is the number. Second column is the name or the description. So second column will give you the description or the HSN name. Third column will give you the unit. Unit means when we are talking about this product, whether it is per kg, per liter, etc. That is to say, whether the rate of duty expressed, if it is expressed per unit, what is that unit? What is that unit of measurement? It can be kgs, liters, etc. Most important for us is the fourth and the fifth column where the rates of duties are given. So first column is HSN, that is a code number, then description, then the unit column. Now the most important column for us is fourth and fifth. In both these columns, rate of duty is given. That is the import duty rate, the basic import duty. Now the question is why there are two rates? Please remember this. These are relevant things for exams. The fourth column provides you the standard rate. Standard rate is the rate applicable for those goods if they are imported. However, fifth column provides you a lower rate than the standard rate, which is called as the preferential rate. This rate is applicable whenever goods are imported from specific countries or under some specific trade agreements. As we see many times, our Honorable Prime Minister or Honorable External Affairs Minister, they visit different countries and over there they sign different contracts and agreements. Some are related to security, some are related to other things, but many contracts signed are relating to trade. And within trade, many aspects of the trade are directly linked with taxation. So many times, in order to promote trade with a particular country, we put them in the preference list. Now, what happens if the country's name is put in the preference list? So now if you are importing goods from that country, instead of levying the standard rate, which may be, let us say 10%, you will be levied the preferential rate, which is only 2%, or which may be even nil. That depends. So this is how you have two rates. One is the standard rate, one is the preferential rate. So Ayush is asking, so is it like lower withholding because of DTA? Yes, you can say so, but Ayush, so how you have double tax avoidance agreement in Income Tax Act? In a similar fashion, you can say, similarly, we have this preferential rate. You are very correct, Ayush. Now, what are the conditions to be fulfilled? That is when you will be eligible for the preferential rate or the lower rate. First, at the time of importation, you have to apply for it. So it means in your bill of entry, which is the application, you should make a specific tick in the column that you want the preferential rate. Only then the custom people will know that, okay, you are putting in the preferential one, and then they will make their assessment and then they will allow or not allow the preferential rate. So first is you have to make a specific claim by taking the specific column in the bill of entry. Next, you should also claim that the goods are produced, manufactured in that particular country or area. So obviously, these rates are dependent on a particular country-based goods. So when you are applying for this, you have to submit proof that these goods are originating from that country. Further, the area should be notified under this. So it should be notified. The name of that area should fall in that preferential list, which is given in section 4.3. And then the origin of goods shall be determined in accordance with the rules made in section 4.2. Now see what happens many times. In order to get benefit of a particular area, it may happen that China is first sending goods to that area and then it is coming to India. In that case, it should not happen that indirectly China is getting benefited because it is simply routing the goods from that particular area. So that is why they say that they will check the origin of the goods, and how for that again rules are made under section 4.2. I hope all things are clear up to this point. And then the second schedule deals with rate of export duty. As I said, we won't be reading much because there is a very small list of goods which are kept in export duty and they keep on changing depending upon their requirement as to where they want to restrict a particular export or with which country they want to restrict the trade. Accordingly, they put or remove goods from the export list. Fine. Anybody has any questions up to this point? So this is all about the first type of custom duty, that is the basic custom duty given in section 3.1 of the Customs Tariff Act. Yes, students, any doubts, any questions? So I'm waiting for your inputs. Let us make the topic a bit interactive. Anybody has any particular question, doubts, please feel free to ask. Yes, somebody has put something in chat. Okay, not yet, he's saying. Okay, no problem. So let us proceed then. Now we come to the second type of duty, which is your GST. And obviously it has to be IGST. Now this is levied by section 3 bracket 7 of the Customs Tariff Act. But here I would request you all to recall section 5 of the IGST Act. Now section 5 is the charging section of the IGST Act. I hope you all will be remembering that section 9 is the charging section of the CGST and the respective states SGST Act. In the similar fashion, section 5 is the charging section of the IGST Act. Now section 5 bracket 1 proviso says that in case of import of goods, so section 5 bracket 1 proviso deals specifically with import of goods, and it says over there that when we are talking about import of goods, the time, the value, everything will be decided by the customs. So including the levy. So levy, time of supply, valuation, collection, everything will be decided by the customs. Because of which you fall in section 12, even for the IGST. Through section 12 of the Customs Act, you come to section 3 bracket 7 of the Customs Tariff Act. So see how things are linked. Now, interestingly, section 3 bracket 7 says that we will be collecting from you the IGST, which is leviable under section 5 of the IGST Act. So the tax is leviable there, but now we are given the power through 5.1 proviso to collect that tax. And how it will be collected, how it will be calculated, everything is specified over here. But the rate of this tax, that is the IGST, you will take from the IGST rate schedule. So rates are not given in Customs Tariff Act for IGST. Again, why? If you remember, I had mentioned that we want to bring parity. So if Indian goods are levied with 18% IGST, I want to levy the same 18%. If Indian goods are exempt, I want to keep them exempt. If Indian goods are levied with 28, I want to keep them at 28. So we are regularly making changes in the GST rate schedule of GST law. So customs tariff has not taken the pain of again repeating the duty rates here, because in that case, it will also be required to change every time GST law changes the rate. So better is what it has simply done. It has said everything else we will do, time, value, everything. Only rate you go and take from the GST schedule. So what it says that we will levy it at the rate not exceeding 40%. Now, from where are they getting this? They are getting this from section 5 only. If you remember GST law section 5.1, it says that the government shall levy IGST on interstate supply and the rate shall not exceed 40%. Today we have maximum 28%. Now, most important, the rate you will get from the IGST rate schedule, but all other things customs law will tell you. So here they have mentioned on what value. It says that the value that you will study in the next section, that is subsection 8 and 8A of this act only, that is the Customs Tariff Act. Again, what it says, the rates that you want, it will be the same rate as is applicable to the goods which are supplied in India. In short, you have to go to the IGST rate schedule, and the same rate schedule plus the same exemption, everything what you apply for GST, the same thing continues over here. Ayush, very good question. Do these goods also need to satisfy the definition of supply? Now, this is interesting. Now, this is where we have to first understand and answer this question, that whether the GST law is not at all covering import goods. Not at all means everything is shifted to customs law, or only the procedural part is shifted to customs law. It means the levy remains under the GST law. Now here, Ayush, there is a slight contradiction between the different views that we get to hear from different experts. I understand it this way. I'll put it my view, which is also there in our modules, that once the goods satisfy section 12 conditions of import, they will be levied with the duties of import mentioned in Customs Tariff Act, and Customs Tariff Act section 3 bracket 7 asks them to levy IGST, and here you will not find that they have mentioned the condition that it should be a supply. So my interpretation is that here they are simply saying that in addition to BCD, import of goods is also leviable to GST. Simple. Here they have not put the condition of supply. So once your goods fall in the import definition, they would be leviable with IGST under section 3 bracket 7 of the Customs Tariff Act without satisfying the conditions and all the requirements of section 7 of the GST law, which is of supply. I hope this is clear, Beda. Then section 3(9) of again the Customs Tariff Act says, similar to IGST, that is the GST tax, you will also be levying and collecting the GST compensation cess wherever it is applicable. Now it is still applicable, but it is applicable up to 31st of March 2026 as on date. If it may be further extended, we don't know, but as on date, the last date to levy GST compensation cess is extended. Earlier, it was supposed to expire in 2022, that is after 5 years of implementing GST. Now they have postponed it and they have shifted it to 2026. Fine. So all other things are similar to what you study in the GST law, that wherever compensation cess is applicable in the GST law, in the same fashion, compensation cess will be applicable when the goods are imported. So for example, today compensation cess is applicable only on luxury goods like motor vehicles and on sin goods like tobacco products. So the similar case, when these same goods are imported, they will also be levied with GST compensation cess, but via section 3 bracket 9 of the Customs Tariff Act. Fine. Now we come to the question of on what value will you calculate this IGST, that is the GST portion. Now, this valuation is given in section 3 bracket 8 of this Customs Tariff Act. What it says, first we will take the value of the imported article. Now, how this valuation will be done, we'll study in a very detailed chapter and a very interesting chapter, that is section 14 of Customs Act, right with the custom valuation rules. So first just take the value. Now, most important thing, in this value, you add all other duties which are leviable by the customs except the GST. So what does this section says about valuation? So you take the assessable value, that is the taxable value as per the customs law, which we'll study in the valuation chapter. To that, you add all taxes of customs, all duties of customs except this. And on this total of this two, you will compute your GST tax, that is the IGST. I hope this is clear. So on this total, you compute the IGST. So IGST will be computed on the total of your taxable value as per customs, which is called as assessable value, plus all the customs duties, which is basic custom duty, which is your additional customs duty in the form of safeguard duty, anti-dumping duty, whatever duties are there, all will be added. And on this total, you will compute IGST. So if let us say IGST rate is 18% will be multiplied by this total. Now, it is interesting to note that this point is matching with our GST valuation. Now, GST valuation, if you all remember, is under section 15. And section 15, subsection 2 says what all things have to be added to determine the total value on which GST would be computed. And in that section 15, subsection 2, clause A says you will add all taxes other than GST to find out the value on which GST is to be computed. So this is given in section 15(2)(a) of the GST law, that is the CGST Act. And similar provision you find in section 3 bracket 8 of the Customs Tariff Act. So they have tried to maintain uniformity, so there is no conflict, internal deviation between the two. Similarly, section 3 bracket 10 of this Customs Tariff Act says on what value you'll compute compensation cess. It says it is the assessable value for levying GST compensation cess is to be computed in the same manner as discussed above. So similarly, compensation cess will also be calculated on the total of the above two values. So in the same fashion, how you compute the value for IGST, in the same fashion, you'll compute the value for calculating compensation cess. And for calculating compensation cess, you will not add the IGST, which is calculated above. So anyways, we do not include the GST portion in the taxable value of GST. So the IGST which we have calculated will not be added while computing the cess. So IGST and cess both will be calculated on the same value, which is the taxable value of customs plus all the customs duties of all types. I hope this point is clear to all. Anybody having any questions, because this was slightly technical? If anybody has any doubts, please feel free to ask. Students, any questions? Ginny beta, all these will be available to you. These all revised PDFs will be uploaded on this BOS portal itself. In fact, the portal from which you log in that you have a download section. Whatever I am covering here, later on, after my sessions are over, these will be uploaded there. So you may download it from there. So as I mentioned, Beta Genie at the start, we are trying to give you all the most updated module. So our latest or last updated module is already hosted on our BOS portal. These all chapters, as we have started with the sessions, we are trying to give you the chapters amended to the last or the latest date as possible, Genie. So please be patient. Anyways, it is not changing it from A to Z. So just have patience. Whatever this I'm using, this will be shared with you in this portal itself, from where you can download in a day or two. Is it clear, Ginny? Now we come to something very interesting. What is this? Section 3 bracket 8A. It deals with manner of computing value in case of warehouse goods. Now, firstly, let us try to recall what we discussed in the previous lecture, because there we discussed the broad procedure. So goods land at Bombay port. You are, let us say, in Delhi. You want the goods to be kept in a warehouse, in a custom bonded warehouse in Delhi. No problem. You get the goods cleared from Bombay port, but you do the clearance of warehousing option. So you don't pay the duty and make it clearance for home consumption. You do it for warehousing. So goods are removed from the Bombay port and they are brought and kept in the customs bonded warehouse in Delhi next to your factory or nearby your factory. Now, when you want, you can clear the goods from these warehouse by paying the duty. You may clear all the goods at one time, or you may clear the goods step by step, and whatever quantity of goods you are clearing, to that extent you pay duty. How the duty is calculated, again at the time of clearance, you have to find the second bill of entry. First bill of entry was filed at the time of clearance from Bombay port, which is called as into bond bill of entry. That is bringing the goods into the customs warehouse, which is called as bonded warehouse. And now for getting the goods out of the warehouse, you file the second bill of entry, which is called as the X bond bill of entry. That is for removing the goods from the bonded warehouse. So it is called as X bond bill of entry. In this bill of entry, you will mention the quantity which you want to remove, and valuation will be done again, because now the value is slightly different from the value what you had at the time of original import at the Bombay port. So what will be this new value? That is what is explained. So where goods deposited in the warehouse under the provisions of customs are sold to any person before clearance for home consumption or export under the said act, the value of such goods for the purpose of calculating the tax shall be, where the whole of the goods are sold, the value determined under subsection 8, or the transaction value of such goods, whichever is higher. So you first compute the value as above, or where any part of the goods is sold, the proportion value of the goods as determined under subsection 8, or the transaction value of the goods, whichever is higher. Now, what is this whichever is higher? What are the two values out of which they are asking you to take whichever is higher? So let us take for an example. My goods had come to Bombay port. I had asked the customs people to put it in my warehouse in Delhi. My goods are lying in warehouse in Delhi. You come to me saying, ki, sir, I need 1,000 quantities of these goods. I say, ki, Baba, it is lying in my warehouse. I'll get it cleared and give it to you. Say, no, sir, good. It is good if it's lying in warehouse. I also do not have the space immediately. So let it lie in warehouse, but you sell the goods to me. So I have an option to sell the goods on as is where is basis. As is where is means where they are, that is in the customs one is warehouse. Let it be there. I can sell it to you. How will I sell it to you? By making an invoice, etc. This particular document is document of title. In GST language, it is the bill of supply because it is the Schedule 3 transaction. There is no GST on that. I will give you this transaction. Now you become the owner of those goods. Now, whenever you clear the goods from the custom warehouse, for you, this valuation rule will apply. So what will be your value? One, the value as determined above, which means the transaction value, whatever we will study in the valuation chapter, plus all the customs duties. This is the first value which we discussed above, or the price at which I have sold the goods to you, because I may have sold it to you at a bit higher price, including some margin. So out of both these values, one is value as per custom valuation rules and everything, and second is my selling price, whichever is higher. In case part of the goods are removed, same working will be done for part of the goods, only will take proportionate value. Now, in this particular case, you have to take whichever is higher. Now, interestingly, they have factored one more scenario. What if these warehouse goods are sold more than once? So I had imported the goods, kept it in warehouse. You came to me, I sold the goods to you. You are still having the goods in warehouse only because you purchased from me on as is where is basis. Now Mr. X came to you, they wanted the same goods, so you sold it to them. X sold it to Y, Y sold it to Z, and then finally Z is going to the warehouse to get the goods cleared after 6 months from today. So between these 6 months, goods from me were sold to you, you sold to X, X to Y, Y to Z. Now, when Z is going to get these goods cleared at that time, how will the valuation be done by the customs? Again, they will first take the value as per their valuation rules, adding all the customs duties, etc. Or they will take our sale value. Now, we had said whichever is higher. Now, the question is with sale value, because now there are multiple sales. The law says we will take the sale value of the last of these transactions. So, last of these transaction is between Y to Z. So they will take the sale value of Y to Z, that is the last sale value, compare it with their valuation rule value, whichever is higher. This will be the final taxable value for computing the customs duty. Ayush, why the customs department is concerned with Indian sales? Good question. So try to recall, Ayush, what we discussed in the previous lecture, that in case of customs, our taxable event finally is concluded when the goods are cleared. Till then, you don't need to pay duty. So when I shifted the goods from Bombay port to the Delhi warehouse, I did not pay any duty. It means even customs are waiting, because as per the Honorable Supreme Court decisions, which we discussed in the previous session, uh, the levy is postponed, or I'll say finally the collection is postponed up to the date of clearance. Now, if they are ready to wait up to the date of clearance, so they will take the value up to that date. That is why they are concerned with the sales that are happening in India before their clearance. Once you clear goods from them, then whatever sales you do, whatever price you levy, they are least bothered. This is the ideology. Fine. Yes, Mamta, there is a time limit for clearance of goods from customs. We'll study that when we go to the customs chapter. It is section 60, where they have given the time limit within which the goods should be cleared. It is 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, depending upon the nature of goods. Plus, if these goods are perishable, this 1 year can be even reduced by the commissioner, depending upon the nature and the life of the perishable goods. Now, we proceed further. Now, we studied two duties, basic, and the other was GST and the GST compensation cess. Now we study the next duty, which is the additional duty of customs. Now, what is this additional duty dealing with? This additional duty is nothing but equal to the excise duty. Now, as we all know today, there are only few goods on which excise is applicable, and these are the goods which are outside GST, that is the 5 petroleum products, and also tobacco products. These are within GST, but tobacco are the only products on which GST and GST and excise both are parallelly applicable. Now, on all these goods, you have your central excise applicable. Plus, besides this, on alcoholic liquor, you have the state excise applicable because liquor is under the state power or the state prerogative. Now, in this particular case, the point is the point is that what is this additional duty? This additional duty is nothing but this excise duty. So let us say you are importing any of these goods. On these goods, the customs will calculate basic custom duty, all other custom duties, and to that they will also add the excise portion by the name additional customs duty. I hope this is clear. Now, similar to that additional custom duty, that is the equal to excise, there is a similar duty called as the countervailing duty. Now, this is interesting. What it says, this duty is again equal to excise, but it is the excise which is applicable on the raw materials or the components or the ingredients. Now, somebody will ask you, sir, what is this? Why are they levying excise duty of raw material on my final product? So let us say I am buying a plastic toy. They are saying in the previous part that we will levy on this additional custom duty equal to excise as applicable on toy. For the time being, I'm assuming toys are liable to excise duty, just to explain you this point. So this subsection 1 says that we will levy excise duty equal to that which is applicable on toy. But here suddenly subsection 3 says we will also levy additional duty equal to duty applicable on the plastic which is used to manufacture toy. But this is highly unfair. The answer is subsection 1, that is the above point, and subsection 3, both are mutually exclusive. Both are not levied at the same time. Reason, if you are levying the above excise duty, which is on the toy, which is on the final product, it has already embedded the value of raw material. So already raw material excise is covered in that. So in that case, 3.3 will not come into play. Now the point is, then when 3.3 will I think there was some technical issue. Just a minute. 3.3, if you all understood. So 3.3 is basically dealing with what scenario? 3.3 is dealing with the scenario where your final product is exempt. So there is no excise duty on final product because of exemption. So there will be no additional custom duty under 3.1. But I want to bring parity. How parity? A domestic manufacturer who's manufacturing toys is required to pay some excise duty on his input side, that is on the raw material, that is plastic. But the output toys is exempt. But even though output is exempt, whatever tax he has paid on the input side on the plastic, that is part of his costing, and to that extent, it has added to his price. So on the same ideology, they are saying that we will also levy excise duty of raw material. But this 3.3 is applicable only when 3.1 is exempt. So there is no scenario where 3.1 and 3.3 both are applicable, because then it will be highly unfair and irrational. Then comes another duty, which is 3.5. Now this is for what? This is for balancing or charging you the local taxes, which is sales tax, value added tax, octroi, etc. And these are again the taxes which are applicable on the sale of those goods which are for the time being outside GST. Again, these goods, the petroleum products and your alcoholic liquor for human consumptions. So for all these goods where for the time being GST is not applicable, you will be adding at the time of import first the basic customs duty, then the customs cess, surcharge, etc. And after that, you will be adding additional custom duty, which is 3.1 or 3.3 as the case may be. And you will also be adding this particular duty, which is the special additional duty to counterbalance or to nullify the VAT and the local taxes portion. Now coming to the next part, emergency power to impose or enhance export duty. This is simple. So this section has given the central government the power that whenever it wants, it can either impose a new duty or it can enhance the existing export duty. So what are the conditions? The goods may or may not be specified in the second schedule. It means either already the name of the goods is there, there is some duty, or there may not be any goods. You want to add a new item to the list. Both are allowed. Second, when this will be done, only when the government is satisfied that the circumstances exist. And what are these circumstances? Let us say there is some scarcity in India. Like during COVID, we had imposed certain restrictions on export of mask, of PPE kits, because there should not be any scarcity in India. Same thing we did for the remdesivir medicine. So for similar reasons, wherever the government feels that they want to either restrict something, they will ban that, but they do not want to completely restrict, but they also want to control it or bring it down. Then what they do is better they add extra tax. So they introduced export duty on that. This automatically happens. This automatically will result in what? The value or the costing of the price of the goods will increase, and automatically their exports will reduce. Similarly, they have emergency power to impose or enhance the import duties which are there. Now here, what is the difference between the condition is, here the first condition says goods should be specified in the first schedule. So the difference between the previous power and this power is, in case of export, even if the goods are not there in the export schedule, that is schedule 2, still they can add a new item in the export schedule and levy export duty. But for import, they can only add or enhance the duty on the products which is existing. They cannot add a new product to this list. Who cannot do this? Central government. Who can do this? Parliament. Because CTA is a tariff act, and act is always formulated by the parliament. So parliament has powers to do this. It can always change this list, add or delete items. We are talking about the emergency power of the central government. Further, the first proviso provides that the central government may not issue any notification under this section unless earlier notification amending the rate has been placed before the parliament and same has been passed. So let us say the parliament previous sitting was in monsoon. Let us say now there is no session till December. Now directly the next session is in December. Now between this gap of 3 months, first the government amended some rate, 4% was made 10%. Now they again want to make 10% to 12%. This is not allowed, because first that 4 to 10 should have been approved by the parliament. Only then the second time they can use this power. So what does this particular proviso says? When they want to use this power, they can use this power once. They can use it again only when the previous amendment done by them under this emergency power is approved by the parliament. Now we come to a very interesting part, which is called as safeguard duties, because these duties are levied by the government as safeguard measures. Now, when does the government wants to safeguard, or under what scenario they want to safeguard? First, where they find any article is imported in increased quantities, like generally we find from smaller countries like Vietnam, Bangladesh, or even China, they are sending goods, or rather they are dumping goods in huge quantities. And obviously they're dumping it at a very low price. So this is definitely affecting our Indian manufacturers, our Indian economy. So first, to reduce or control this, they have the safeguard measures of introducing a safeguard duty. Second, if there is increased importation of a particular item which is causing or threatening to cause serious injury to our industry. So one, there is an increased quantity of importation, and second, it is causing or it is threatening to cause some injury to the domestic industry. Injury means the industries will shut down or the market will collapse, etc. Now, when any of such things are found by the government, any means both conditions are satisfied, and they find this in any of the goods, that for a particular item of goods this is happening, they will resort to this safeguard measure, whereby they will introduce some safeguard duty. Now, these are some important points which are relevant or which are related to this particular point. I'll request everyone to go through them. They're simple in understanding. That is why I'm not reading them verbatim, but they are all important. Since they are given in your module, you need to follow them. Now, applicability of all machinery provisions of Customs Act. Now, this is a very special duty which is called as a safeguard duty. We are going to see the types of safeguard duty later on. What is important is the provisions of Customs Act and all rules and regulations made thereunder, including and not limited to those relating to the date for determination, assessment, etc., 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 as far as they apply to the duty chargeable under this section, as they apply in relation to duty leviable under the Act or rules regulations, as the case may be. In short, like how normal duties are treated, the basic custom duty or the IGST portion, in the similar fashion, safeguard duties would be treated. So all the procedures for levying safeguard duties would be same like the procedure for levying your regular duties. Now, in some cases, the government may not levy the safeguard duty. First, articles from developing countries. So where that particular article on which you are levying safeguard duty is originating from a developing country, then in that particular case, up to 3% of total imports coming from that country, you will not levy the safeguard duty. Now, in case the articles are originating from more than one developing country, then as we saw, for one developing country, the limit is up to 3% of total imports. In the similar fashion, all developing countries put together, maximum up to 9% of total imports, we will not levy safeguard duty. Thereafter, even if it is coming from any developing country, we will levy, because otherwise our economy, our industries may shut down. Second, where the imports are made by 100% EOU unit or a unit of economic zone, especially economic zone, in such cases also, the safeguard duties may not apply unless specifically applicable to them. So general rule is it will not apply to imports made by these. But if the notification specifically mention that we will levy safeguard even for imports made by SEZ and EOU, then it will apply. And second condition is the article imported is either cleared as such into DTA or used in manufacture of any goods that are cleared into DTA. So until unless these conditions exist, there is no safeguard duty on imports made by DTO or SEZ, EOU or SEZ. Now, what is provisional assessment? See, when safeguard duty was or would be levied when there is some injury caused to the domestic industries. But whether an injury is caused or not, that has to be checked, that has to be evaluated. Now, for this, the government has mechanism. They set up committees. The committees carry out different types of surveys. They do discussions with different trade bodies to assess if any injury is caused. But this may take months. In that much time, if huge import has already happened into India, then even after that, if you impose this duty, it may not have much relevance. That is why we have this concept of provisional assessment, whereby they say that wherever the government, as per their immediate figures that they are receiving, that okay, suddenly in the month of September, certain goods import increased drastically, and there is a possibility that it may lead to causing some sort of injury to our domestic industry. In such cases, the government may, on a provisional basis, for maximum 200 days, impose this duty. So it is a temporarily imposed duty, and it will be in force till 1200 days, till 200 days. And in these 200 days, the government has to complete their inquiry assessment. And if after assessment they find that, okay, this duty is actually required, anyways, you have levied the duty. And if they feel this duty is not required, then whatever duty it is collected by them will be refunded. Now, Ayush is asking, sir, what is DTA? See, SEZ, all these special units are like foreign entities for us. Why I'm saying they are not foreign entities, they are entities in India. SEZ is very well in India. You are units which are set up in your and my city, but they are having a status like a foreigner. Why? Because they are not required to pay our domestic taxes. That is the benefit that they enjoy. Similar to them, all other units, other than those who are SEZ, EOU, they are normal units to whom all domestic taxes apply. That is why they are called as DTA, that is domestic tariff area. So there are two areas. One is the specialized area where all tax concessions apply like SEZ or EOU. And then the units normally, other than SEZ, EOU, are treated as a DTA units. Ayush, I hope it is clear. Further, they say that time to time they may revive or review the notification issued, and they may change the conditions or the rates of these safeguard duties. So this is broadly about safeguard duty, and now they have explained in detail what are presently the safeguard duties which are applied by the government. The first safeguard duty they have termed as countervailing duty, and it is levied because there is some given on these goods. Subsidy given by whom? Subsidy given by the originating country. So let us say certain goods are originating from Italy and they are coming to India. Now, the Italian government has given some special subsidies to these goods. And obviously, you all know if certain subsidies are given to these goods, when these goods are coming to your country, they would come at a lower price. Once they come at a lower price, our products, which are domestically produced products on which we are not giving subsidy, they will become costlier and automatically we will be losing in the competition. So to counter this, they say that if any goods which are coming to our territory are enjoying some type of subsidy, some type of concession given by their parent country, then we will levy this additional duty, this safeguard duty. Now, safeguard is a generic term. In this, the first safeguard duty is countervailing duty on subsidized articles. So we will be levying this safeguard duty on such subsidized articles. The question is how much? The safeguard duty of this particular section would be levied exactly equal to the amount of subsidy. So whatever is the amount of subsidy given in the parent country, the same amount we will add over here so that we will bring them at par. See, we will not say that we will bring them at par with Indian price. See, our prices, if they are costly, then they are costly. Every product coming from outside India cannot be matched with our price. We are not going to do that because, again, that will be unfair trade. What we are simply saying is, if you have given 5 rupees subsidy, I will add back 5 rupees so that your product comes at par. Now, even if after coming par, it is less than my Indian goods, then fine. You will have that edge in the economy. And to that extent, I also have to allow such free and fair trade in my country. So I will not compulsorily or forcefully add anything extra. I will only add duty which is equal to the subsidy enjoyed on these goods. Now they have tried to explain when it will be said that your goods are enjoying subsidy. First, there is some type of financial contribution given by your government or any public body in your country for such goods. First, further, there is any form of income or price support given. Or thirdly, the government makes payment to a funding mechanism or interest or directs a private body to carry out one or more type of function. So in one way or the other, the government has given you some financial benefit, either directly in money terms or by type of some sort of supporting system. In all such cases, we will call your goods as subsidized and we will add exactly the duty equal to the subsidy amount. I hope this is clear to all. Again, the same point continues, non-applicability, because this is the generic point we studied in safeguard duty. Now, how much is this amount? The amount is exactly equal to the amount of subsidy. Points which merit consideration, this duty is in addition to all other duties. So whatever we studied about basic IGST, this is in addition. It shall not be levied unless it is determined that the subsidy relates to export, subsidy relates to use of domestic goods over imported goods, and the subsidy has been conferred on a limited number of persons. Only when these conditions are existing, this duty will be levied. Now, initially, the government has powers to levy this duty for first 5 years. And then if this subsidy continues and it's still the industries are getting impacted, they may extend it for next 5 years. So total 10 years, they can impose this duty. So first 5 and then further increase by 5. Again, the same point, provisional, because again, finding out whether subsidy is there or how much subsidy is there may take time. So what they can do is they can immediately implement this duty on some provisional basis, temporary basis. They will make their assessment for which we studied there is 200 days. And after that, they will decide whether to continue or whether to refund it back. Now, there is something interesting over here, that is retrospective. Let us say government got to know about this after 2 months. That okay, 2 months back imports happened of subsidized articles and that has caused injury to our domestic industries. The government is having power under this section to levy duty retrospectively. That is, today they are deciding to levy this duty, but they may cover imports of past 2 months. So they have power to levy this duty retrospectively. Again, all machinery provisions of Customs Act will apply to this particular duty as well. Next duty, which seems similar to subsidy but is not same, is anti-dumping. Now, what is dumping? Dumping is where some businessman intentionally, purposefully lowers his price and sells the goods at these lower price in the market just to gain that penetration pricing benefit. That type of act is called as dumping. China is the biggest example of this because they are selling goods at a very low price, but it is not necessary that they are dumping. Why? Because actually Chinese goods are cheap because of their cheaper labor and all other reasons, mass scale production, etc. But initially also, and today also, many big companies, especially when you see these online offers, what are they doing? They are simply following the act of dumping. They are selling purposefully the goods at a price which the local vendors cannot sell because that is not even their margin. But these people, by incurring losses themselves, are selling good at a very low price. Now, when this happens internationally, that is some foreign businessman is doing this, that they are selling or sending the goods from their country to India at a price which is lower than the normal price. So let us say the same shirt in their country costs $20, but when they are sending the goods of those shirts to India, they will charge only $5. Then it is said to be act of dumping. Now here, you may say, sir, then what is the difference between the subsidize and this? This is where I said it appears similar, but it is different. In case of subsidy, the same $20 shirt is sold in India at $5, but the reason is 15 rupees subsidy is given by government. Here, when the same $20 shirt is sold in India at $5, it is because the owner himself, that is the businessman himself, has purposefully lowered the rate of duty. So government has not lowered. It is the private person who has lowered. Is this clear to all? So that is the only difference between anti-dumping duty and the subsidized article duty. Again, how much will be the tax which is levied under this section? The tax would be equal to the amount of dumping, which is called as margin of dumping. And margin of dumping will be equal to difference between the normal price and the export price. So that difference is the margin of dumping. And this amount will be the amount which will be charged to you as this particular additional duty. Fine. Again, then all similar points are given. What is there for above safeguard duty, same points are given. You may just read them once. Again, the same point of provisional anti-dumping duty. That is, immediately they will levy this, and then in 200 days, they will determine whether to continue it or to refund it back. Next, non-applicability of anti-dumping duty. Again, in case where goods are imported by SEZ or EOU, anti-dumping will not apply. Again, retrospective application. So you'll find that points are similar because we are reading the same thing, only the nature or the reason for levying this duty has changed. Again, the same point, initially levied for first 5 years, and then if required, extended for further 5 years. Fine. So this is all about anti-dumping duty. And then the last point says no levy under section 9 or 9A means you cannot levy both duties at the same time, subsidized duty also and anti-dumping also, because it may appear that a $20 shirt is being sold to India at $5. You cannot say that 15 is subsidy also and 15 is dumping also. It can be one of the two. So this particular provision, section 9B, says that you cannot levy same article both the duties at the same time. So most important point is no article shall be subjected to both countervailing also and anti-dumping duty also to compensate the same situation. So either the situation is of dumping, then levy dumping. If the situation is of subsidization, then impose subsidy duty, but do not impose, or you cannot impose both. Further, this subsidy, that is countervailing duty and anti-dumping duty, shall not be levied just because such articles are exempt from duties or taxes borne by like articles when meant for consumption in their country. So let us say domestically over there, the shirt is not levied with a particular duty or tax. That does not mean that this is amounting to dumping or subsidization. And third, these duties shall not be levied on import from member countries of WTO until and unless some concrete material is produced that it is leading to injury. So when you are importing from WTO countries, you have to be cautious. Similarly, provisional countervailing and anti-dumping duties shall not be levied on any article, again, which are coming from specified countries. So same, if we are having some specific relation with particular countries, for articles coming from there, you will not levy this duty immediately. Appeal. Now, if any of these duties are levied and if you're not satisfied or you feel the amount of subsidy which is added or the dumping margin which is added is incorrect, there is always a provision of appeal whereby your matter will directly go to the CESTAT. CESTAT is the tribunal for the customs and excise and service tax matters. Now, after GST will come, it will only be for custom matters, and for GST, you'll have the GSTAT, that is the GST tribunal. Then, similar to your education cess in income tax, we have the social welfare surcharge on the imported goods. It is levied at 10%. This is instead of the education cess. So over here, we are levying the education and health cess. Here it is called as the social welfare surcharge. The point is similar to what we do in case of income tax of education cess. And then there is a new type of cess, which is agriculture, infrastructure, and development cess. This is not on all items. It is on specific items on which the government wants to levy this particular additional tax or surcharge or cess, whatever you may call. So this is not levied on all goods. It is levied only on specified goods. What are these specified goods? They have given example. This is only illustrative. It is not that this is the final list. Fine. So this is all about this chapter. Now, this chapter was very simple, basic. Only the types of duties are given. You need to prepare them. Again, it is more of a theoretical chapter. You need to know what are the different types of duties and taxes which are levied in customs. Now, we'll have a break of around 10 minutes. And after that, I'm starting with a very interesting and very important chapter in our customs, that is relating to classification. This chapter is also important from the perspective of GST, because even in GST, we have the concept of classification. So we start with this in next 10 minutes. So 10 minutes break. Is this fine, sir? Hello? Student, yeah, 10 minutes break, sir. So students, we are coming to the second part of this session, which is a very interesting and important part. I like this part a lot because it is of a great relevance and it is of a great interest. So till now what we were studying was more of theoretical type. Now this one is more of application type. So I'll request everyone to pay attention to this. Now this is what is the classification in customs. It equally applies to GST. So I'll be covering both parts synonymously because anyways you have GST classification chapter also. Now let us first understand what is classification. See, classification is simply you are supposed to decide in which chapter, in which heading your goods or services will fall. In case of customs, it is only goods. In case of GST, it is both goods or service. Now you'll say, sir, what is this? Which chapter it will fall, which heading it will fall. So let me explain it to you in further detail. In my previous session today, I had mentioned that all these goods in which we are having our international and domestic trade, these goods are now put in a list of standardized names. This list is called as the HSN, Harmonized System of Nomenclature, made by the WCO, World Custom Organization, adopted firstly by our customs in the Customs Tariff Act. From there, it was adopted in the Central Excise Tariff Act. And from there, now when GST was implemented, we brought it in our GST tariff also. So today you can say all our tariff entries of indirect taxes are basically dealing with this only. I hope this is clear to everyone, right?
Pay attention. Now, when I say this, the next point to understand is how is this WCO made? This World Custom Organization made this list of all goods by putting them into different chapters. They made total 98 chapters. So when they started making names list, they thought that there are lakhs of names. If we put everything one after the other, it will be very difficult to identify. So that is why they decided to put it in a proper chronology and they made 98 chapters. Now we adopted that WCO in our customs tariff, in our excise tariff. And when we came to GST tariff, we made 99 chapters where the 99th chapter was added to include the service list. So 98 chapters is the goods list. 99th chapter is the service list. This is, I'm talking about the GST law. But when we talk about the customs and the excise tariff, we have only the 98 chapters. Now, how this chapter was designed? They started classifying or arranging, let me not use the word classification immediately. They started arranging the goods in a very interesting chronology. The chronology was the most raw item will be chapter 1, 2, 3, 4. Slight processing chapter 5, 6, 12, 13, 14. More processing 25, 30, 40. More processing 60, 70. Highly processed products are in 80 plus chapters. So all sophisticated machineries, all types of sophisticated gadgets, helicopters, all these your defense equipments, all these security equipments, majority will find beyond chapter number 80. So this is the beautiful chronology or arrangement. So you'll find all raw things like raw milk, raw eggs, raw animal flesh, raw vegetables, fruits, everything which is in raw in the first 4 or 5 chapters. Again, why 4 or 5 chapters? Because again, vegetables and flesh cannot be kept in one chapter because the nature is different. So they also wanted to make chapters in such a fashion that like how we have one chapter on classification, which is different from the other chapter, which is on valuation. So for you also understanding the law is easy that, okay, when you want to understand a valuation part, you'll only go to the valuation chapter, then you need not go to other chapters. Similarly, when you want to know the types of duties, you'll go to the previous chapter, which is types of duties, then you'll not go to the procedural chapter. So similar fashion, all chapters were classified using some logic, and the chronology in which they are arranged is the chronology of raw to sophisticated. So my first point is, anybody has any doubts up to this point, whatever I explained just now relating to classification, before I proceed? Students, chalo thoda baat karo mere saath. Speak up. You may use any language, because the more you interact, it will be more fun for all of us. Yes, students. Anybody has any inputs? No? Okay. So now classification is what? So let us say I'm manufacturing this mug. Now I want to find out what should be the rate of duty, customs, excise, GST, whatever. For this, I need to know the HSN code of this mug. Now, how will I find out this HSN code? This is what is called as classification. So firstly, I have this mug as the product in my hand. Now I want to decide where will this mug fall in the whole 98 chapters. That is what is classification. Once I find out that okay, mug will fall in this particular ceramic ware chapter, in this particular heading, in this particular subheading, and I get the HSN code as 3489 something. So henceforth, I know that okay, my mug is falling in this chapter, in this heading. That's it. So my classification is done. Classification is identifying where exactly your product is falling in which of this chapter, and what is the final HSN code, the entry number of that product, so that henceforth you will use it for all your correspondence and all your trade, right? So this is what is classification in entire indirect tax, whether it is customs, whether it is excise, whether it is GST. So our basic agenda is understanding all these things about classification, what we have already started discussing. Now, why you need to do classification? First, because there are variety of goods and services. Most important, there is no single rate. See, had there been single rate, had there been single exemption, etc., there was no need of classification. But at least as on date, we have multiple rates. Different things have different exemption. That is why classification becomes important. Next, we need to group or categorize the products into various rates. That is why we have classification, and this mechanism is called as HSN. Now, HSN concept had come from WCO, so it was mainly made for goods and made for international trade. Then we adopted it in excise, we adopted it in GST. But in GST, we also added services. Now for services, the 99 chapter is what is for services, and the code that you get for services, commonly you can call it as HSN code, no problem. But more technically correct, it is called as the SAC, that is the service accounting code. So for goods, we call as the HSN code, and for service, which is added only by us in our GST, schedule of rates, that is what is called as the SAC. So these are some classification related case laws and details. Now, let me take you to the legal framework of classification. Now, if I talk about the GST law first, why I'm talking about GST law? Because from GST law, anyways, we are going to come to customs law only. So for goods, these are the rate notifications. These are the exemption notifications. Similarly, for services, rate and exemption notifications are these. Fine. This is for reference. Now, when I go to services, the service rate notification, I'm talking about GST law, is notification number 11. And when you see, you will find that the number you can see here is directly chapter 99. So for services, directly the chapter is 99, and it will cover all services, and then within that it has made sections where it will group the service into different categories like construction, etc., etc. So the in GST directly starts with chapter 99, because 1 to 98 is for goods in customs, in excise, and GST. So they have retained that uniformity. Only they added this last chapter in services. So in service, there is only one chapter. Within one chapter, they have made groups, which is called as sections. And in each group, they have certain chapters, headings, etc. So that is, it is happening there below the section, below this rate notification. So classification of services, rules for interpretation of first schedule to customs tariff act will apply over here. So they have simply said that for classification of services, how to classify, the rules are same as they are for customs. And that is why I said from GST anyways, we are going to go to customs only. So first is for services, the chapter is 99. And how to classify which service is falling under which heading, you have to apply the customs interpretation rules. Fine. Perfect. So this is before, and then further it is adding one service by adding the code number or increasing the code number. So 954 is for construction, and within construction, as you change the nature, you have 995411, 995412, and so on. Now we go to the classification of goods under GST. Again, the classification is given in rate schedule, which is given in notification number 1. And here the schedule will start from chapter 1. So that is clear. Here it starts from chapter 1. And again it says, for the purpose of deciding the classification, that is where your goods will fall under which chapter out of 1 to 98, it says that the same rule of interpretation which applies for customs will also apply for interpretation of this notification. So in short, again, for this classification under GST of goods, the rules for classification will be derived from customs. So that is why whether you are seeing GST classification, you have to still go to customs. And that is how now we come to the customs tariff act for classification. Fine, students? Yes, they are 6 because further 2 digits are added for more further bifurcation, which I have not shown. So total there are 8 digits. It may happen that every service may not have 8 digits because within 6 digits their classification is over. But still here, since we have the mechanism of writing 8 digits, Ayush, so even if 6 digits classification is over because there is no further categorization, then we add 00 because we need to make it 8 digit. So even if you're finding something as 6 digits, reason number 1 is I have not shown you the entire schedule because that 6 digit may have further subcategorization where the additional 2 digits would change. And if let us say that 6 digit is the final because there is no subcategorization, then still you'll add 00 and make it 8 digit only for the purpose of our Indian GST law. I hope Ayush you got the answer. So you had a very valid question, 6 digits, right? Now, we have this 2 schedules in customs tariff act. We have been studying this from our previous lecture, and even in today's first session also we discussed first schedule for import, second schedule for export. Again, we are only going to deal with the first schedule. Now, how is this first schedule made? So we have 98 chapters, right? But before that we have sections. Now what are these sections? They have categorized few chapters into one section. So like first 6-7 chapters are called as section 1. Further 8-10 chapters are called as section 2. Now you'll say, sir, what is this section and what is this chapter? So chapter is chapter 1, 2, 3, 4, where chapter 1 may have some animal products, chapter 2 may have all this vegetables, chapter 3 may have fruits, but all are under the raw category. So the raw category becomes section 1. So section is the broader category under which similar chapters would fall. So we have total 21 sections. Within 21 chapters, 21 sections, we have 98 chapters because every section has 8-10 chapters. Now, every chapter is divided. So when you see every chapter, you will find headings. Headings means like how when you open your module, every chapter, you will have some paragraph headings. Within each paragraph heading, you may have subheadings, and within each subheading, you may have the points. So this is how the entire entries are made. So first 2 digits in HSN is the chapter number. Next 2 digits is the heading number. Next 2 digits is the subheading number. WCO, that is World Custom Organizations, only give up to 6. We have added further 2 numbers for the final serial number. So what we call as serial number is the tariff item. Now, as Ayush was asking why in my previous example there were only 6 digits, because I had only given it up to this. There may not be further subclassification. And even if there is no further subclassification, we will add 00 for this because we are having this rule of using 8 digits. So first 2 digits chapter, there is no digit used in section. Keep that in mind. So section is just for your reference. In HSN code, you only have first 2 digits for chapter, next 2 for heading, subheading, and this is how 8 digits are made. Interesting point just for your reference and for your knowledge. Out of these 98 chapters, they have intentionally kept the 77 chapter blank. Why blank? Tomorrow, if they find that some new commodity has come into existence which they want to add, let us say today, just for example, shares are not treated as goods. Securities are not treated as goods. Tomorrow, let us say the law changes and they also want to include securities in goods. So they need to have a chapter. Today, there is no chapter covering shares because that is never treated as goods right from start. So that is why a chapter is kept blank to cover such items if the need be. So this is how the structure goes. Section 1, it has from chapter 1 to chapter 5. Then you have section 2, which has chapter 6 to further chapter 14. Then you have section 3, which has chapter 15 onwards. So this is how sections are there. Now within each section, like in section chapter 1 to chapter 5 is there. In chapter 1, you have these headings: 0101, 0102, 0103, 0104, and so on. Within each headings, you have subheading. So 0102, this heading will have subheading 0102, 10, 20, 30, 40 up to 90. And within each, you may have further subheadings, which are the entry numbers. So it will be 01, 02, 10, 11, 01, 02, 10, 12. So that would be the last two digits if required. Otherwise, it will be 00. Fine. So see, I'll just take an example of section 2. So we'll take example of section 2 to understand this whole scheme. So section 2 heading is vegetable products. Now just pay attention, students. There is a note here. What is this note? This note is describing something about section 2. So this note is called as the section note. Then in section 2, you have chapter 6 to chapter 14. So we start with the first chapter of section 2, which is chapter 6. Some heading of this chapter is given. And again, below that, there is a note. Now, these notes are very important. This note, which is the note to the section, is called as a section note. This note, which is the note to the chapter, is called as the chapter note. So section note, chapter notes. What is the importance of this? We'll study. Now, within chapter 6, you have these headings. 0601, it covers this. And within that, you have further detailings. Correct? So Ayush, I'll just request you to focus here. See, here you have 8 digits written. Now here, I don't have any specific sub-digit under, subcategory under this. So it is just simply put 00. But here within 20, I have further subcategories. So within 20, I have 10, 21, 22, up to 90. But under 10, there is no subheading. So if there is no subheading, we'll write it as 00. Right? And if you remember, in the start, we were discussing there are 5 columns. So first column is HSN. Second column is description. Third column is the unit. So how is these goods expressed? They are expressed in kgs. So the unit is kgs. And then you have standard rate and preferential rate. Fine. If the preferential rate is dash, it means there is no special rates given for them. So for them, standard rate will again apply. So many times you'll find that the preferential rate is dash because for those products, we don't want to keep any lower rate. So for them, preferential rate is also the standard rate. Students, I hope you are getting the example. Now, this is very practical relating to the subject that we are discussing. Ayush sir, dashes, we are coming to better dash and dots. Good question. That is why I've already marked it. You can see I've put some boxes here to this dash, to this dash. I'll explain those. What are those dashes representing, right? But up to this point, everything is clear. Anybody has any questions or doubts on any of these points? See, classification is a very interesting topic. Yes, it may feel a bit technical or heavy because it is, but if you delve into that, there are many professionals whose area of practice is only one topic, not entire customs, not entire customs tariff act also, only this classification. And that is their only area of practice. And for that, their office library is full only with the books relating to classifications, their judgment, the international classification book, the Indian classification book, and so on. That much vast this subject is, but equally it is interesting, right? Now, remember, we are taking this example to understand the whole classification. So we are taking example of section 2. In section 2, we are on chapter 6. Now see, I'll just show you the heading of chapter 6. What it says: live trees, plants, bulbs. Now here bulbs does not mean electric bulbs. Huh? These are bulbs means some part of your plant only. Roots and the like, cut flowers, or ornamental foliage. Now, what was the heading of this section? The heading was vegetable products. And within that, the chapter is live trees and other plants. Fine. Now, what was this note? As I said, this is called as the section note. Now, what are these notes for? These notes are very important because they help you decide the classification. How? These notes gives you a hint as to what will or what will not be covered in this particular section or in this particular chapter. So see what is given. In this section, the term pellets means products which have been agglomerated either directly or by compression or by addition. So what they are trying to say in this section, wherever the word pellets will be used, it will mean these items. Similarly, in chapter 6, which is dealing with live trees, plants, roots, cut flowers, etc., the note says, subject to the second part of heading 0601, this chapter covers only live trees and goods, including seedling vegetables of a kind commonly supplied by nurseries. So now see, they are clarifying what they will cover. Further, the second note to this chapter says, any reference in heading 0304 of this chapter to goods of any kind shall be construed as including a reference to bouquets, floral baskets. I'm sure you'll be able to understand this. That is why I've intentionally taken this as example. So we see this in market: bouquets, floral baskets, wreath, and similar articles made wholly or partly of goods that are of kind not being taken off accessories of other materials. However, these headings will not include flex of heading 9701. So see, what are these notes for? They are for clarifying what will be included or what will not be included. And this is where, when we read the classification, so you will find that the rule 1 is specifically mentioning about these headings, that for classification, you should refer to these headings. They are your main guide. Now, in this chapter, now we go to the headings. So we are in chapter 06. Within 06, I have taken the heading 03, in which I have taken heading 11, and in that subheading 00. So what is first two digit is chapter number, next two digits is the heading number, and then subheading, and then last two digits is the tariff item. Now, what is this 0603 reading like? 0603 reads like cut flowers and flowers bud of a kind suitable for bouquets. They have intentionally taken this so that you understand, because you can visualize this. So let us say you are buying roses from market. Now these roses would fall under this heading. Why? Because what does this heading covers? Cut flower. So roses is cut flower. Flower bud. So it is not a bud. You have some examples of flowers which are in the form of buds. Buds means which have not yet open up, right? So even in bouquet, you'll find certain flowers which are not open up. So that will also be covered. Of a kind suitable for bouquets or for ornamental purposes, fresh, dried, dyed, bleached, impregnated, or otherwise prepared. So even if flowers are done any of these processing, they will be still falling under this particular heading. Fine, students? So these are some pointers about classification, that this particular HSN is amended periodically within 4 to 6 years gap. Right now, this gap expanded because of the COVID gap. But otherwise, between 4 to 6 years, the WCO meets and they keep on revising, changing maybe headings at time or giving more clarifications depending upon the requirement of the trade and industry. Yeah, beta, don't worry. I'm going to share one of my practical experience. I've taken that in the form of a slide, and that will be the most simplest way of understanding this. In fact, roses is also one such example. So I've started with example of roses. We'll go to such example, which will be more connecting to you all. Don't worry. Now, members countries, including India, are under obligation to amend the tariff schedule in alignment with this. So once they amend in 4 to 6 years, you are supposed to make amendment to your respective tariff schedule of customs, excise, and of GST now. Now, for the purpose of uniform interpretation of these HS, the WCO has published detailed explanatory notes. So they have also been publishing their explanations as to how to interpret this. Now, Ayush, you are asking about this dash. Now see, dash is again used to explain you something, what it means. If anything is having a single dash, it means we are talking about that whole category. If it is two dash, then we are talking about subcategory of this. So single is the main heading. Two dashes are representing that this item which is having two dash is subpart of the item which is having single dash. Similarly, if anything is having 3 or 4 dashes, logically the same 3 dash item will be treated as subpart of 2 dash item, and 4 dash item will be treated as subpart of 3 dash item. So simply heading subheading, sub-subheading, and finally the entry. So this is how you understand the classification, that these dashes are very important because see, everything is written in a list, as we saw in two examples in previous slides. Things are written one below the other. But how will you understand which is subpart of what? That is where dashes are useful. Fine. Now, let us take another example. As Ayush said, ki, sir, take any of your practical example to help us understand this. So again, I've given you example of these sections. So as I said, there are total 21 sections. So I've taken some of the headings of few sections. All 21 cannot be fitted in the slide. So section 1, section 2, section 7, section 11, and so on up to section 21. Correct? As you can see, the detailings. Now, out of this, we'll talk about section 2, which is vegetable products, as we already saw in the previous slide. And in this, we had this note that what will be covered and what will not be covered in this section. Now, in this section, we go to the chapters. What are the chapters which are covered? 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Earlier, I had taken example of chapter 6, which was roses. But I'll take another example, which is more easier to connect. So now I'll be taking example of chapter 8. What is chapter 8 saying? Edible fruits and nuts. Peel of citrus fruits or melons. Now we'll just read other headings also for your interest. So 9 was dealing with live trees, as we saw it covered flowers and plants, etc. Chapter 7 covers edible vegetables. So here it is trees and plants, here it is vegetables, here it is fruit and nuts. Chapter 9 covers coffee, tea, and other spices. 10 covers cereals. 11 covers products of milling industries, and then the malt, starch, etc. coming out of this. 12 covers oil seeds and things related to that. 13 covers lac, gums, resins. If you see, all of these are all plant-based products. None of them are animal-based products, because we are making sections. So section 1 is more of animal-based products. Section 2 is more of plant-based products. So this is how sections are made. If you see the list of section 1, you will find all animal-based products, but all are raw. Similarly, in section 2, you'll find all plant-based products, all are raw. As you proceed, you'll start finding some processing of these items into further, like raw milk is in section 1, but processed milk or further curd or further milk powder, they will be in further sections. As the processing increases, the section and the chapter progresses. Now, out of all these chapters, we will take chapter number 8, which is now for edible fruits. So now let me give you the chapter 8. Now chapter 8 heading is edible fruits, nuts, etc. Again, these notes are very important. Now, since these are the notes to chapter, we will call it as chapter notes. This chapter does not covers inedible nuts and fruits. So if certain fruits and nuts are such that you may call it as a fruit or a nut, but it is inedible, it is not for consumption purpose, then it will not be covered. So there are certain nuts which are not for consumption, it will not be covered. Then chilled fruits and nuts are to be classified in the same heading as the corresponding fresh fruit and nuts. So edible are classified here. So chilled edible fruits will also be classified here. Dried fruits. So we have dry fruits, right? So dried fruits, nuts of this chapter may be partially rehydrated or treated for foiling purpose. So you have these are kaju, pista, badam, which are dry fruits, but they may be rehydrated. Like we take this kismis, the dates, and we put it in water, and then also we can consume. So even dry fruits will cover those items which can be rehydrated. So they have simply clarified what will or will not get classified under this chapter. So these notes are called as the chapter notes. Now, in this, in chapter 8, which is dealing with edible fruits, now I'm taking you to the headings what are covered in this chapter. So chapter is edible fruit. Within that, 01 heading is for coconut, Brazil's nuts. 02 is other nuts, fresh, dried. 03 is banana, including etc. 04 is date, figs, pineapples, avocados, guavas, mangoes, etc., which we are going to discuss in detail. And so up to 12. So the 12th heading is fruits and nuts provisionally preserved, but unsuitable in that state, etc. So this is how the headings of this chapter on fruits is covered. So chapter 8 heading is, chapter 8 heading is edible fruits and nuts. And within 8, these are your headings. Now in that, we'll go to 04, which deals with dates, figs, pineapples, guavas, mangoes, avocados, etc. Now we go to subheadings. Within 8, 04, 050 is guavas, mangoes, etc. 0804 is what we just saw the heading dates fixed. In that 02 is fixed, 030 is pineapples, 40 is avocado, and 50 is guavas, mangoes, mangosteen. Now we go further detail into this. So 50 was guava, mango as we saw. In that 10. Within 10 you'll find triple dash. So these are sub parts of 10. Guavas fresh and dried, mangoes fresh. Within that, now you have 4 dashes. So wherever you have 4 dashes, these are sub part of 3 dash. And what is the 3 dash? Mangoes. Now within mangoes, the 4 dashes are the types of mangoes. So Alfonso, Hapus, Chausa, Dasheri, Langada, Kesar. These are some common names. I'm sure you all would have heard about them. But a number 2 dashes may not be here required because here we are not taking the heading 1020 individually. So 10 is the double dash, and within 10 these are the items which is the triple dash. So I have not taken the double dash items, right? So these are triple dash, and within mangoes these are the 4 dashes. Fine. Now what are the 8 to classification? It means now with this example we go to details. Yes, with this example we go to details. How to do classifications. First, headings, subheadings, as we saw, the names of the heading, subheading. Most important are these notes, section notes, chapter notes. And then we have the interpretative rules, which we are going to study. And we have the case laws and the WCO ruling. So these are the different things with the help of which you do classification. So first you see the headings, subheadings, that is the names. Then most important, you read the notes given below each section and chapter to find out what will and what will not be covered. Then you will apply the rules that we are going to study now and the related case laws or the WCO rulings. Now, let us go to the interpretation rules. So we already saw the headings, heading, subheading, how they appear, the names. And we have already seen that for all these heading, subheading, you have single dash, double dash. All these helps in identifying what is coming under which category. Now, we apply the interpretation rules. Rule 1. What does rule 1 says? The titles of sections, chapters, sub-chapters are provided for ease of reference only. So the names which are given to each of these chapters or headings is for reference. But for legal purposes, that is for classification purposes, you should see the section and chapter notes. I had already mentioned this in the previous 2 examples of roses also, and this latest example of fruits also, that the section note and the chapter notes are the most important thing. So rule 1 says, you read the headings. Obviously, headings help you because they gives you the name. But that is not the decisive thing. You should immediately read the notes because the heading may suggest something, but if the notes counter it, you have to follow the notes. So headings are for reference, but final classification depends upon what is given in the notes. So final conclusion of this rule 1 is the chapter titles and sections do not have legal force. So the name is not the final thing. What is the final thing is what is given in the notes. The notes may be to the section, the notes may be to the chapter. Fine. And now we apply these rules one by one. So first rule we apply first. So first rule says, don't only look at the headings, look at the notes. Right? Now, these are some case laws relating to this key, whether when you should see the rule, when you should see the headings and when you should see the notes. So all these rulings says notes are the key point of your classification. So you have to see the notes only, not the headings. Now, I'll give you a practical example to this to understand. So let us say we are talking about playing cards. We all have done this in the childhood. It was one of our favorite pastimes before we had these all mobile gadgets and the video games coming. Before that, we used to play simple games like Ludo and Snake and Ladder and even playing cards. Now, chapter 49. If you read the heading of the chapter, it says product of the printing industries or toys and games, which is chapter 95. Now, see, this is where you have a confusion. Why you require these rules? Because if you go by heading, there is a confusion. Like chapter 49 says products of printing industry. We all know that these are printed. But then chapter 95 says toys or games. Now then the question comes under which heading this will get classified. So here we have to take help of the notes. So if you read the notes, notes to chapter 49, which is relating to printing industry products. It says that this chapter does not cover what it does not covers playing card and goods of chapter 95. What is 95? Toys and games. So in short, even if these products are made in the printing industry, that is, it is made by printing, and obviously it is done in printing press only because you have to print those impressions and the images, but still it will not be classified in chapter 49. It will go to chapter 95. How we have decided this? Because by the heading it appears to be part of this chapter 49 only, but the the chapter notes have clearly mentioned that this chapter will not cover the playing cards. So understand this. This is what rule 1 says. You have to apply the valuation. You have to apply the notes, which are the section notes and the chapter notes, to decide the classification. I hope this is clear. Another example. We have tricycle. I'm sure everybody of you would have some or the other time in your childhood rode a tricycle. Now again, there are conflicting entries. Chapter 87 says vehicles other than railway, tramway, rolling stock and parts and accessories thereof. And 95 is again toys and games. Same, 95 is toys and games and 87 is vehicles. Now tricycle, children, tricycle will fall where? Again, we go to the chapter 87 notes. What does the note says? Heading 8712 includes all children bicycles. So chapter 87 1 2 heading 1 to 12 will cover bicycles, but other children's cycles, that is tricycle, will fall in 95 chapter. So again, interestingly, the bicycles that we use, maybe today also many of you all would be using, that will still be covered in chapter 87 heading 12. So bicycles will be covered in 87 only, which is the heading of vehicles, but tricycle used by children will be falling in 95. So see, this is how the notes given to every chapter is very, very relevant. Now we come to rule number 2. Rule 2 has two subparts, A and B. A says that if anything is sold in this form, which is called as incomplete or CKD or SKD. What is CKD, SKD? CKD is complete knockdown, SKD is semi-knockdown. So where something is supplied in parts. The best example is cycle. If you know, any cycle manufacturing company will not send the cycle complete to the cycle shop. It will send the cycle in parts. The tire is separate, the chassis is separate, the individual items are separate. It is sent in the parts, right? And the cycle dealer or the person owning the cycle starts fitting the parts. Is this clear? So somebody is asking me what is U/F. See, now try to figure out. See, use your brains, use your observation skills. I've used some words, incomplete, CKD, SKD, and there is some abbreviation, U/F. What would be U/F? It is unfinished. So things which are not in finished form, that is, they are, yes, good, incomplete, like many times. Many things which are sent to you are in incomplete or unfinished form, means they are made in parts. You have to simply complete it. Another simple example is ready to cook. Things are ready. You have to just put it in hot boiling water. It is ready. So these are in unfinished forms. But why in unfinished? Because that is only how they can reach you. They cannot cook and send it to you. Then it will be restaurant. But then it will be having very small shelf life. So many times these ready to eat are in unfinished forms. Now for all this, what does rule 2A says? Rule 2A says that when you are reading any chapter and the chapter covers, let us say, product A, it will include product A in complete form, plus it will also include product A in its incomplete or unfinished form, provided it should have all the essential characteristics of a complete. So as I said, a cycle is dispatched from the cycle manufacturer to the cycle shop in parts, but still what they are supplying is cycle only, because their intention is to send cycle only, but it is just sent in the unassembled form. That will be classified as cycle only and not as tire or chassis or ring or seat, etc. It will be classified as cycle 1 only. So in short, rule 2A says that incomplete products which are having the characteristics of finished goods, means it is finished goods only, but sent in incomplete or unfinished form, they will have the characteristics of complete goods and they will be classified in the chapter of complete goods only. These are some examples, like certain computers, like even furniture items. They are sent in part so that you can just simply nut, bolt and fit it, right? These are some examples where things are kept unfinished, incomplete, or they are kept in the disassembled form. And you apply rule 2A, which means that even incomplete or unassembled items would be classified in the heading of finished goods only. Then you have 2B. Now 2B is again interesting, where let us say your product is made up of 2 or 3 things. So it is made up, it is a mixture of 2 things. I'll give you a very simple common layman example, mango lassi. Now we all know mango lassi means which is made up of 2 items, mangoes also and lassi also. And both are classified in different chapters. Mango, which is fresh fruit, we just saw, which will be in the first part, that is in section 2. But lassi, which is more processed product, will be in section 4 or 5. Now, in such cases, where to classify this? So what does rule 2B says? Any reference in a heading to a material or substance shall be taken to include reference to the mixture or combination of that material. So in short, if I am saying lassi, lassi will also mean mango lassi. So the reference to material will also mean the mixtures and combinations made out of that material. But here the problem is, what if you have 2 headings, both referring to the materials, like one heading referring to mango and one heading referring to lassi? In such case, what you will do? So in that case, rule 2B says, if you are not able to classify using 2B rule, because it will get classified in 2 headings of mango also and lassi also, then you'll have to go to rule 3. But rule 2AB says that if any item is a mixture, you will classify it in the heading of that material out of which mixture is made. The simple example is, when we buy coffee, you will find that it is saying that coffee is mixed with chichori. So it is always classified in the heading of coffee only, even though it is having other components. So similarly, if you see the ad of red label tea, it says that it includes tulsi, it includes some elaichi. So it is a mixture, but still you classify it under the head of tea only. So these are examples where 2B is applicable. But as I said, mango lassi, 2B may not be applicable because there is a heading of mango also and there is a heading of lassi also. In such cases, what you do is you go to rule 3. Now in rule 3, you have 3 sub-rules, A, B, C. What does rule A says, 3A says? It says, go by that heading which is more specific. So now, in my mango lassi case, I have 2 headings, one of mango also and one of lassi also. So previous rule is not helping me because as per that rule, it can get classified in 2 headings, mango also and lassi also. Now, where should I classify? Then they say, 3A says, go by the heading which gives it its most specific description. So, even though it is made up of many components, but which heading will give more specific description, whether mango or whether lassi? I'm sure your answer would be lassi. So that is where rule 3A helps. It says that if any item gets classified in 2 or more headings because of previous rule, then you can apply that heading which is more specific. So here are some examples. Let us say electric shaver. We use commonly, men use commonly, even females use. So in this particular case, there are 2 headings which appears competitive. One, electromechanical domestic appliance. Yes, these are all electromechanical and they are domestic appliance. They are not used in factory, etc. But you have a more specific heading which says shavers, hair clippers, hair removing appliance. So both are eligible because both are having a description of my product, but I'll go by that heading which is more specific. Now let us say if this rule also fails, let us say somebody challenges, no, my lassi is such that 50% is mango also, so it has equal content of mango and it has equal content of lassi. Now in such a case, if you cannot go by the specific description because 2 or more headings may appear specific, then go by the character rule. So see which heading is giving that product the character. So let us say maybe by specific mango and lassi may appear specific because you have equal strength of mango also, and some people may be consuming it because it is having good flavor of mango. They want to eat that mango. That is why they are having that lassi. In that particular case, you will say, no, sir, mango is also specific, lassi is also specific. No problem. Rule 3b is there. It says, see which of these items gives that product the main character. What is the main nature of the product, and that nature is derived from which item? Again, if you apply this rule, you will get the answer as lassi. So lassi gives the main character. So again, I have taken some example. So you have multimedia speakers. Now these speakers have additional facility, like it has USB cord, it has SD cord, it has even radio. Now even your mobile phones has so many things. Now when your mobile phone has even a radio and a clock and so many things, it is also used as a instrument to hear music, watch movies. So where will you classify? We go by the essential character. So character wise, what will these items be classified as? One is loudspeaker, other is sound recording or reproducing apparatus. Obviously, if you look at these are more of sound recording or reproducing, but the main character of this is loudspeakers. So accordingly, it should be classified. So see, this is how these rules are applied. Now, even if this rule fails, both appear same in character also, then rule 3C, we call it as the tiebreaker rule, because this rule simply says, then see the heading of all those items where you feel your goods get classified, and the item which is last in the sequence. So in all the chapters, in all the headings which is coming later, we apply that rule. That is why this rule is also called as later the better or tiebreaker rule. So when the logical rules fail, like the specific rule fails, the character test rules fails. So in such a case, the law says you then apply the last rule, which is the tiebreaker rule. That in this, we don't apply any logic, we only see the sequence. And out of all the headings where your material can be classified, the heading which is later, you classify the material there. So this is an example. Nowadays, you have many items which are multi-grain items. Now, you may get a package which is having multiple grains, like atta also made up of multiple grains. Now that atta will be classified where? Because each grain is equally used in terms of quantity. It is having a character of all the grains because all nutritions are there. So you cannot apply the first two rules. Then it says no problem. If it is specific also for all, if it is having character also of all, so then do one thing. See the heading numbers. So this is 10.1, 10.8, 10.3, 10.8, etc. And then apply the number which is the latest. So it is 10.08. So we apply 10.08 as our answer. Correct? Now, after all these rules, we have rule 4. What does rule 4 deals with? If your goods cannot be classified in accordance with above rules. Now, when this rule 4 is applicable, when you do not find a name for your item, because your item is something very unique, something new, it is not yet being used by others. See, above rules up to 3 are applicable when you find heading, but the heading are more than one. So it is 2 or 3 headings, then which rule, specific rule, character rule, tiebreaker rule, etc. But if you don't find any heading only, then this says you then classify your goods under the heading which is similar to your goods. So what your goods do, if there is any other goods in the entire schedule which does the same thing, with which you can say that my goods are akin. Akin means similar. They are of similar nature, similar type. So you can classify your goods in that rule. Then comes rule 5. Rule 5 is made exclusively for the packaging, the boxes that we use. Now, interestingly, what does rule 5 say? See, there can be two types of packing materials or two types of boxes. One, a specially designed box which is only for that product. And two, a general purpose box in which you can keep anything. So like you have the pistol case, you have the piano case. These are the boxes which are designed only for holding that. Like you have the jewelry box. So these packing materials or boxes will be classified in the chapter of the main product for which these boxes are made. So even though this box is made of wood or of plastic or of any other metal, but it will be classified in jewelry, it will be classified in musical instrument, it will be classified in pistol. But if these are general purpose boxes, general purpose means their shape and size is not designed only to keep that box. It is a general box. You can keep any item in that. Then it will be classified in the heading of the box or of the material with which the box is made. So for packing materials, there are two broad rules. So first, for specific materials which are special, where the boxes are of a special size for only keeping those items, or the general purpose boxes. I hope students, this is very, very clear to you all. That is where, beta, this is, Ayan, this is where we are discussing, where you are importing an empty gun case. So where that empty gun case will be classified, it will be classified in the chapter of gun. See, where you are bringing the gun case and gun may not, this may not be a problem. But where you are only importing gun case, only piano case, where it will be classified, then 5A will be applicable. It is the specific item. I mean, it is a specifically designed box, so it will be classified in the chapter of the goods for which it is designed. But if that box is a general purpose box, you can keep anything in that. In that case, it will be classified in the packing material chapter or in the chapter of the material like wood or cardboard with which that packing box is made. Is this clear, Ayush Beda? Good. Now we come to rule 6. What is rule 6 saying? Rule 6 says, now we use all these rules to decide under which heading my goods fall. Now once you have decided the chapter and the heading, now under each heading you have subheadings. Under which subheading my goods will fall, they say repeat the same rules again. So apply all the rules again. Same rules which you applied for deciding the chapter and the headings, the same rule you apply at the subheading level. So for the subheading, go by the notes, if any, go by rule 2, whether it is in semi-finished form, unfinished form, or if there is more than one heading, subheading applicable, go to rule 3. If rule 3, one specific rule. If rule 3, 2, the rule of character. If not, then go by the last sequence rule. So this is what applies at firstly the heading level, and then again the same rules continue for deciding the subheading. Now, besides these rules, you have certain theories. Theories mean certain principles or concepts. Now, how are these theories made, or from where do you get these theories? These theories are given by various courts in their decisions. Like, in fact, recently we got a very landmark decision relating to GST Safari Retreat. In that decision, the Honorable Supreme Court has again applied a theory called as the functionality or the functional test theory. Now, this theory is applicable, or this concept, now I'll use the word concept of functionality, is applicable to determine so many other things. That concept they have applied to give decision for one of the landmark cases of Safari Retreat. Similarly, in classification, many times these rules which are made or which are given in the law itself may fail, or may not be giving you a very good or reasonable result or a proper answer. Then the Honorable Court said that, okay, keep the rules aside. We will go by some logic, and the logic are these theories. Now, what are these theories? So the theories are, first theory is the trade parlance theory. What is trade parlance? Trade parlance. Parlance means the language or the words that we use in trade. So how is a particular item known in the trade? Like generally when we talk about any item, we know by item by its brand. So I will say I want Rin. I will say I want Ariel. I will say I want Colgate. But in the trade parlance, they are not known by the brand. They are known by the product. Like they will say detergent. They will say toothpaste. So these are the terms which are the trade parlance. That is the terminology used for trade, because they are more concerned with the product and the industry rather than the brand. Because a businessman may be having that particular product of all brands. So he is least bothered about the brand. For him, when I will ask कि भाई क्या business करते हो, he will say भाई मैं toothpaste का business करता हूँ. He will not say मैं Colgate का business करता हूँ. He will say मैं detergent का business करता हूँ. He will not say मैं Ariel का business करता हूँ. For you and me, it is Ariel and it is Surf and it is Vim. But for trade, it is not the brand, it is the product. So that is what is the trade parlance. That is the terminology or the name used by the trade. Second concept here is where a word has a scientific or technical meaning and also an ordinary meaning. According to common parlance, it is the latter sense that
in a taxation statute, the word must be held to have used unless contrary intention is expressed. So if let us say something has both a technical meaning and a simple meaning, like many words in English are having both meanings. I'll give you a very beautiful example. When you go to any court case, when you read any court case, in court case, they say leave granted. Now this happened this is why I'm giving you this example. This happened just I think 1.5 or 2 months before in one of the courts. Now you know that people have started using AI. So in that particular court, the AI was used to convert this English into Hindi. So when the honorable judge said leave granted, right? Uh, sorry, not granted. It was what leave something, leave allowed something. So the AI converted it. What was confusing for you, beta? So leave allowed. It was leave allowed. The honorable court said leave allowed. The AI converted into छुट्टी मिल गई या छुट्टी sanction हो गई. Whereas in court's language, when they say leave allowed, it means they are allowing you the permission for doing that. Now, this is the difference between a technical meaning and a general meaning. So, general meaning of leave is chutti. Okay, when I say leave, we all mean it is chutti. But in court's language, when they say leave allowed or leave granted, it means they are not talking about chutti. They are talking about the permission granted. Now, this is where again this common parlance theory says generally will go by the general meaning until and unless there is some technical meaning which is intended. Like where this is used, many times the names of the products are used with some technical terminology or jargons, like any of these brand names or product names. If you see prudent, now prudent, if you we know it very commonly, so we feel it is a name. It is not a name, it is a technical word. Prudent. Prudent means wise, right? We have been using this word in English that the person is prudent. But is that company using this name with that technical word? Because prudent was a brand name for toothpaste. So whether their intention for toothpaste when they use the word prudent was to mean wise, answer is no. There is no relation between a toothpaste and being wise. So the point is, here this trade parlance theory says that until and unless the intention was to mean something technical, you will not take the technical meaning, you will take the general or the simple meaning. So see, these are some interesting pointers that we need to understand relating to our classification. Fine. Then comes a second theory in this, that is the end use or the functional test, as I was saying, which is recently used in one of the landmark judgments. So this is the functionality test or the end use test. What is this test? It basically deals with the intention with which the product is sold and purchased. So what was the intention of purchasing a particular product? Now I'll give you a very beautiful example. In some smaller parts of our country, villages, and even more interiors of villages, people use tobacco even for brushing their teeth. I'm sure if anybody would have seen that, especially in smaller villages areas. Now, this I'm talking about some 20, 25 years back when all these toothpaste, etc., have not reached there and there were no advertisements because people were not having TVs, etc. So, many areas, people used to use tobacco for brushing their teeth. Now, interestingly, if a company is selling tobacco, whether it will classify it under tobacco, which is some type of drug used for intoxicating, or it will classify it as a toothpaste. This is where the functionality test comes. So what does this test says, or what does this theory says? This test can be used when the entry under consideration links the taxable object with its use, or where the meaning of the term in common parlance is derived by the use to which the goods are put, irrespective of the minor use for which they can be used. So minor uses are not seen. So tobacco in one of the odd cases may be used for brushing, but in general it is not for brushing, it is for intoxication only. So but predominant test says that whenever you are not able to classify the product by the name, then you will go by the intention for which it is used, or what is its end use or the functionality test. And then or basis the intention or the test of use, you will decide under which chapter it will fall. So this test is generally not applied because it many times may give very bizarre results, very conflicting results. That is why this test is generally inconclusive and it may be applied only very rarely. Fine, students. So these are some important concepts about classification. So we discussed the classification entire schedule, then the chapters, headings, how it is designed. Then we went to all the classification rules with the different practical real life examples. And towards the end, I gave you all the theories. So now I keep the session open for your discussion. Thank you, Jeannie Beda. Yes, I try to make things easier so that you all can remember, understand you, but I'll request still that you all read the same thing from module. I'm sure now you'll understand whatever is given in the module much easier. See, I took efforts to make this special PPT only because this chapter is very technical and very vast also. I'm sure with this PPT and some images and some practical examples, you would have understood this. Most important, remember students, the same concept applies when you go to GST. Excise anyways is not applicable now. It is only for a few products which are not in GST. For only that excise is there, but for excise, for customs and for GST, classification is same because same terminology, same HSN is used. So same principle applies. Fine, students. So with this, we close our today's session. From my side, I have ended. I have completed the entire provision. Okay, you want me to be slow? I can be slow, but not a problem. So wherever you feel I should be slow, I can go slow, not a problem. No problem, but it is not about anybody being slow or fast. No problem. So maybe from next lecture, we'll try to be a bit slower. So thank you, students. Thank you very much. Be live in all the lectures so that you all can raise your queries and also come prepared by reading that particular chapter. So next chapter, we all know what is there. So that has been shared with you in the schedule. Kindly read those chapters and come. Fine. Thank you, students. Yes, Jenny, I'll try to do that. Thank you. Thank you very much. So technical team, we close today's session. Yes, technical team. Thank you. Thank you. Good night. Happy weekend.